Hello everybody. This video is inspired by a message I received on the LylesBrother channel. A friend of mine is faced with an opportunity to take a job in a rewarding career, financially rewarding career, although it's a career that may have some negative elements as well, in terms of possibly being contrary to this person's values. So I'm going to try to, and basically the question was asked of me, what would one do in such a crossroads? And I'm going to take the opportunity to address my response to Emily. I think it's kind of fun to do that, and that way it becomes more of a father-daughter type of a thing than me telling any of you what to do. It's my job as a dad to do that. Emily, I'm going to give you the example of, so let's lay out the problem again. The problem is, should you take a good job for money and glory, though it may be something that you don't necessarily agree with in principle, in terms of what your values are? I'm going to share with you the example from your grandfather, Alan Bell, aka Grizzly. My dad, during the Vietnam War, my dad was your grandfather was a computer software engineer. At that point, he was more of an electrical engineer at that point. And he was working for, Hughes Aircraft, I think. And we were living in Los Angeles area, the family. And I remember Mom and Dad coming to us, and Lyle and I, and telling us that we may be moving to Southeast Asia. We didn't know where Southeast Asia was. That may have been the first time that I became interested in learned about Asia at all. I remember my mom and dad giving me a book about Asian animals at that point, kind of a primer to get us ready for this possible move. Turns out, I learned later, what happened was that my dad had received a very lucrative and career-enhancing opportunity to move to Southeast Asia to basically work in the war industry. Work basically, I don't know exactly what it was, but something that had to do with the mechanisms of war. And we would have to relocate to our whole family to do this. And it would have been great for Dad's career. It would have been great for us financially. All the pluses there. In the end, I remember being disappointed when Mom and Dad told us that we weren't going to be going to Southeast Asia. And I remember my dad, they didn't give us the details, but I remember my dad summed it all up in one phrase. He says, I'm not going to kill babies. Now, those of you that may not, Emily, you may not know this, but when at that time there were, the United States was involved in a conflict, whatever you want to call it, in Vietnam and other parts of that area of Southeast Asia, and it was very controversial. There were a lot of bad things happening. It was one of the first wars where there was actually near-live press coverage of what was going on, and people really saw the horrors of war. And my parents were part of that, and there was in our own country, in the United States, there was a lot of protest against what was going on. And my parents shared in that as well. They didn't approve of that. And my dad basically had decided, with consultation with my mom, together they had decided that this job opportunity was too much in opposition with their values. They knew that they couldn't stop the war single-handedly. They knew that their tax dollars were going to support the military, and that indirectly they were killing babies, as my dad called it. And the reason they said killing babies was that there were terrible photographs that came out of that conflict showing children that had been killed, incidentally through action, through fighting that was going on, and it was a very bad scene, to use the term at the time. So my dad and mom basically decided, nope, they're not going to take this job because it was too much. It didn't jibe with their values. And we didn't go. So Emily, what I would suggest to you is, as you're moving forward, as in growing into an adult and into your older years, there's two things that need to be taken into account. One, first, something that needs to be done, and the second that needs to be taken into account. The first is you need to develop a set of values. What's important to you? These may be religious, spiritual values, or they may be simply secular beliefs in what is right and wrong to do to your fellow man and fellow organisms and the planet that we live on, the universe universe that into which we exist. Once you've developed a set of principles that you value, you then need to develop the courage to live according to them, and that's a tough one. I mean, it's tough, and it's tough making values, but it's really tougher still to follow them sometimes. And you will find that those values may cause you to take paths at certain points of your life that may seem a little bit scary, and they may seem like there may not be the right one. But it's amazing how things seem to work out better when we follow the voice that whispers to us the better course, versus the voice that whispers the simple gain. And I'll finish off with a conclusion about the experience that my family had as a result of not going to Southeast Asia. What ended up happening was one of the reasons my dad was excited about moving to Southeast Asia was it was the new job. He wasn't very satisfied with the job that he had at Hughes Aircraft, and he was excited about the idea of something new. Well, we didn't go to Southeast Asia, and I'm sure that was a big disappointment for him. Let's go this way. And I'm sure that was a big disappointment for him. But what ended up happening was, within a very relatively short period of time, the family decided to embark on what we call the Odyssey, where we basically gave up all, quit our job, sold our house. They pulled Lyle and I out of school. I've mentioned this in other videos as well. And basically, we bought a Frito-Lay potato chip delivery truck that we could live in, and we all plowed in, grew our hair long, and wandered the United States and Canada on an adventure of living and experience. And that period, that Odyssey, had a profound impact on our family in terms of our courage and willingness to enjoy life and to have the strength to follow our convictions. And I know that they gave my father some of the best years of his life and helped him to solidify his identity as Grizzly, and my mom great satisfaction. And she always had her boy's best interest in mind. And one of the things she always was after was to give Lyle and I a broad range of experience. And for Lyle and I, the experience was one that solidified permanently in my mind basically a fearlessness in a way towards change. The thing that I worry about is taking care of my family. That's the main concern now in my life is my responsibilities. I have obligations to my family, and I will not jeopardize them recklessly. So it doesn't mean that I'm willing to give it all up and take my family off like I did in the Odyssey, unless I had the means and the ability to do that, and relative confidence that I could regain my support capability when that venture was over. So it's a complicated thing, but let's just sum it up: values and the courage and conviction to be able to follow them. And to bring it back to the person that left the original question to me, I think that's my dad's example. Hopefully it will be helpful to you as well. You're basically faced with the same type of thing. I know that from your letter, from your message, that you have your values, and you have an opportunity now, and you seem to have already sorted out your answer. And now it just the rest remains on your lap, as it does on the laps of all of us at every juncture in our lives. And with that, I'll go ahead and sign off and wish you all a wonderful day. Look at those beautiful clouds in the background. My goodness, isn't it just the best to turn and look and admire? I'll leave you now to admire whatever vistas you have before you. See you all later. Bye-bye.